All right, this is your next to the last one. It's on safety and specifically what your behavior is. Now, clearly, in a lab, there's no monkey business or horseplay. You got to be careful in the lab. There's a lot of stuff in there. There's chemicals in there. There's glassware in there. You don't mess around. You take it seriously. Okay, it's that simple. If something spills, if something breaks, tell your teacher. Right? Part of it is we don't want you cleaning up glassware if it breaks. Let us do that. If you clean something up and you get cut, we have to fill out 1,000,000 forms and keep them forever. And I mean that literally. If we break something, if we have to clean it up and we get cut, they're not anywhere near as concerned. Okay. Measure things carefully. Look carefully when you measure things. That's just a behavior in the lab. You need to make sure that you do that. Listen and follow directions. If one of us is giving you directions, you need to make sure that you listen. You need to make sure you read the labs to know what safety issues there are. So those are behaviors you need to have to keep safe in the lab. Now, there is no food or drink anywhere in the lab. There is food and drink up at your table up at the front of the room, and that's fine. You may have food up there. You may have water, soda, whatever up there, but you may not have food back in the lab unless it is associated with the lab and we give it to you. And certainly don't eat it unless we tell you that you may. Be careful with hot or electrical appliances. Realize that a hot beaker looks the same as a cold beaker. A hot plate looks the same as a cold hot plate. So don't start something going and walk away from it because someone else might touch it, and that's a safety issue. Always wear your goggles. Clearly, we already talked about that, and make sure you wear them on your eyes, not on the top of your head. Wash your desk before and after experiments. You don't know what's been there. And so you want to make sure that that's clean, especially if we're doing a food lab, you want to make sure that it's clean. Right? And when you're done, you want to make sure that you leave it clean for the person who comes after you, so please wash your desk both before and after an experiment. Now, one of those things, this is something you have to just memorize. You never add water to an acid. You always add acid to water. So it's very important that you add acid to water. And that's just something that you have to remember. You have to memorize it. Now, one thing that might help you is, for those of you who work at swimming pools, you have to put pool acid in a pool, right? And this is called hydrochloric or muriatic acid that you add to a pool. And you do that to kill stuff, the bacteria that's in it, all right? Now, do you add the pool to the bucket of acid, or do you add the bucket of acid to the pool? Clearly, you add the bucket of acid to the pool. It is dangerous to add water to acid. You can get splashes, and then the acid spills on you, and then you've got all sorts of problems. Always add acid to water. Just like you would do at a pool, you'd add a little bit of acid to the water. Whenever you're carrying something sharp, like a pair of scissors, you don't walk with it in front of you. I think you should know by now that you walk with scissors or sharp objects pointing down at the floor. How do you go and smell a chemical? You never stick your nose right up over it. You always waft it, and this young man is going and wafting the smell towards his nose. Okay? Because you don't want to get a bunch of fumes in your nose. And if you do, you need to go get some fresh air. Okay? So that's something to be careful of, because fumes can be very, very dangerous depending upon what the fumes are. There are a couple labs that we do where we do generate some pretty bad fumes. We'll warn you about those before you do them and how to protect yourself from the fumes. You should always wear appropriate lab attire. Okay? Now, that means you should not wear flip-flops. You drop a piece of a beaker or something on your foot, not a good idea. If you're wearing closed-toed shoes, the shoes will protect you, okay? You should wear long pants. You should wear shoes. If you are wearing something like a skirt, you probably want to wear an apron to protect yourself, okay? The last thing you should do, the very last thing you should do when you leave the lab, always, 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 is wash your hands. Because you might just have put your hand on a table, and you don't know what was there before. And if there's some chemicals, you'll get them on your hands, and you don't even notice they're there. And then all of a sudden, 20 minutes later, your hands are completely black because of the damaging effects that the chemicals have. Or you rubbed your face with it, and then your face is black, which is even worse. All right, so always, always, always wash your hands before you leave the lab. All right, that's it. Go ahead and answer a few questions, and you'll be done with that podcast. See you soon.